Okay, well, we're about to start the skid pad event. After a very well organised and run acceleration event after quite a time away from Formula SAE in Australia.
Very hot out here today, so it's going to be the first real test, I think, of, of how the cars can handle the heat and reliability-wise. But the track's all set up, so hopefully we get a few teams coming through pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think Auckland will be feeling very happy after their attempt in the acceleration event. They really did throw down a pretty good time early on and just kept with that time. It'll be interesting to see whether they can match that here in the skid pad.
Yeah, so it will be interesting. Obviously, this event definitely a different test of the characteristics of the car compared to the acceleration event. So there might be some other competitors that were not so good in the acceleration that show themselves up here. But time will tell, I guess, once we see the cars out on track.
Yeah, University of Adelaide was particularly good on that acceleration event, and they're not running aero, so this might be an event that they see other teams be a bit more competitive with them. I'm expecting a good result from Canterbury and Monash for sure on this event.
Yeah. Was actually generally done some practice and got the handling balance set up quite well for the skid pad circuit. Sydney. All right, so Sydney making their way out onto the track, first competitor of the day with the skid pad competition. So the trick is to enter this event in the first instance in enough speed that you're up to speed straight away, but not too fast that you overshoot the first corner, and that was a good effort straight up from Sydney.
Yeah, this looks like this driver has done this before. It looks reasonably stable. A bit of chopping on the steering wheel on that second lap. Looks like a nice solid run here from Sydney. They'll be really happy with that. And that starts off our skid pad with a nice successful run.
Yeah, first run of the day, and conservative, but got on the board with a 5.85 fastest pass of that one. So the true standings, I believe we don't know till the end of the event because you take the average of the right and the left-hand laps, but the raw timing we get through initially is just the fastest lap of those. So it will give us a good indication, but sometimes we can see the order change around once we average the two laps.
And a 5.8 is a really good banked run. We'd expect that as the faster cars go around, a good competitive time is around 5 seconds, and the really fastest teams, especially with torque vectoring, should drop under that 5 seconds if they're really on it.
So the drivers do have the option of going around for their second attempt straight away. Once they've done their first one, they'll stop, have their wristband marked off, and then if they can keep the car running or get it restarted, they are allowed to take their second attempt straight away, which is usually the wise way to do it, because you've generally built up a little bit of tyre temperature in your first run, and obviously you've got your iron and you're in the zone, so it's good to just back up and try and improve upon your first attempt straight away if you get the chance.
Yeah, I really like how the organisers have set this skid pad up with clear cones on the way in and out. It's a fairly big space, and in previous years there has been a bit of loose behaviour on the entry and exit into skid pad, so I think this is a really a good move.
Yeah, so as you can see on the skid pad out here, we've got a lot of blue and yellow cones, which actually forms part of the track for the autonomous demonstration later on this afternoon. So they've done quite a good job here actually to utilise the autonomous basically autocross track cones as they run into the skid pad event. So it actually creates quite a constrained entry, and all the teams have basically the same run in. So should create a nice even playing field for everyone out there today.
Even though this is very much a test of the cornering ability, it's very important to have a really consistent engine on this. So as the car accelerates and decelerates, any upset to the vehicle will cause the car to lose a bit of its line. But another clean run there from Sydney.
Yeah, that was a good run. Improved a little bit down to a 5.69 second run, so knocked about a tenth and a half off their first run there.
Yeah, that's an excellent start from Sydney. They'll be very happy with that. And once again, we see University of Newcastle out here. It looks like the New South Wales teams seem to be getting out early, getting their runs in, making the most of the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely the best way to have a successful race weekend and good results is to be nice and organised and get to events on time and prepared. It's generally a good sign of a well-organised and well-managed team, and can't fault University of Newcastle so far. They've been the first team to get through tech inspection and administration, first to acceleration, and second here to the skid pad. So really good start to the weekend for them.
And we saw in acceleration that only about half of the teams that are listed managed to put in a time for acceleration. So if you do reliable finishes and get out there early, you can really pick up some places in this competition. I'm really keen to see how this Newcastle car goes. Here there's quite an aggressive aerodynamics on the front end of this car. They've really put a lot of downforce onto this, so we'll see how effective it is once we see it go around corners. Now, as you saw with the IC car, as the engine was going up and down in revs, as a driver tends to bounce off the throttle a little bit, the car's unsettled quite a lot, and that's one area where the electric vehicles are quite effective. They tend to have much smoother delivery, so you can really put it on the skid pad a lot more accurately.
Yep, so this is also our first electric competitor of the day, so will be interesting to see how that actually pans out with their dynamic ability. A very tidy car, this one. So definitely the drivers have had a few laps in it before the event, so here's hoping they've actually done some practice of the skid pad.
Looks like a tidy run so far.
Yeah, so 5.6 on the first lap. And a 5.6 as well on the second lap. So very consistent across both laps, and that puts them into P1 straight away. So just a few hundredths of a second quicker than University of Sydney.
Yeah, really good. I think the driver there was probably changing the speed a little bit too much in that second run. So I think if they can steady down on this run, they'll be a lot faster.
I think he was easing his way in a little bit as well. This looks like a little bit more aggressive start to the second run, so we'll see what time comes out of it.
Yeah, so far this is looking like a lot better run. That was very smooth.
Yeah, 5.3 there.
Looks like a bit of a dip in that second turn.
and a 5.5 on the second lap. So average about a 5.4, which is a very competitive first time from Newcastle. So very well done to them.
Absolutely, that'd be a fantastic time for it. It definitely looks that as they're going into that left-hand turn, there's a dip in the track. So that we'll see how different cars are being upset by that. But the driver really handled that very well. Very smooth drive then.
Could also see with that car, looks like it's spinning up the inside rear wheel a little bit. So it'll be interesting to know what kind of control system they're running with the rear wheel drive there. I believe it's a single motor on that car. So yeah, a little bit of wheel spin on the inside tyre, which isn't necessarily helpful to the skid pad event. But if you could tune that up, they might be able to improve that time a little bit.
Yeah, that's an excellent run by Newcastle there. We see the students observing this. University of Adelaide up there on the up on the side, giving us a wave. Wonderful, decked out in a great uniform there. Great to see teams from all states here.
Yeah, lots of teams line up along the fence here. This is quite a popular event for the spectators. And yeah, it's quite hot out here today, so hopefully everyone's got their sunscreen on. Lots of hats and umbrellas floating around, so sun safety is very important. And hopefully they see some hot times on the track as well.
Well, Swinburne lining up here with a very interesting aerodynamic device with the umbrella. But I don't think that is actually legal to run in the event.
Yes, this will be the first of the four-wheel drive cars we'll see today. So haven't actually spoken to this team to know whether they're running a torque vectoring system. I might go and have a chat to them later on. But the car with the four-wheel drive system should be very competitive in this event, and quite a well-sorted car as we saw in the acceleration. So interested to see what sort of banker lap these guys put down.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see good things here from Swimmer. It is a very well-presented car. The team has the experience. They've got a lot of time with electric vehicles. I'd say if this car is reliable throughout the competition, it's going to be finishing fairly highly up. So we already see a few cars lined up ready to go following this. I would say that most teams like to get a really good early banking run on skid pad. It is one of the events where tuning and tweaking your car can have a really big impact on following runs.
And obviously one thing we see here at the event sometimes is teams have very varied testing sites that have available to them back at home. So sometimes teams can practice skid pad on quite varied surfaces, and sometimes they get their car set up quite well to the test track that they have available to them. But when they come down here to Winton, sometimes with the temperature of the day and the track surface we have, their cars can actually handle quite differently to what they expected from their testing. And yeah, sometimes a few little tune-ups are required to settings on the car, the suspension, tyres, etc. between runs. And yeah, we've definitely seen teams come out after some tuning and put in much quicker times on their second attempt.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an amazing facility here at Winton. It's a beautiful place to have this competition, and the nearby towns of Benalla and Wangaratta are really accommodating. It's a great place to hold this event in country Victoria, and right very close to the border of New South Wales, so a little bit easier a place to get to for the New South Wales and the Brisbane teams or Queensland teams.
And the South Australian teams as well. I think it's a little bit closer to them than Melbourne. So
Swimmer going out, just very slow as it goes into the lead up into the event.
entering the track now, probably going to take it easy on this first run, build his way up, and then we'll see what sort of time comes out.
Really important in this event to get some temperature into the tyres. The tyres 10-inch from Hoosiers tend to have a peak operating temperature in at around 60 degrees Celsius, so got to get a bit of heat into them to get the most out of it, but this looks like quite a slow run from Swinburne. Not sure whether there's an issue with the car or whether they're just absolutely getting a banked run in.
Yeah, so that run ended up with about a 7.1 and 7.2 second laps. So I think a little banker there. By the way he accelerated out of the end of the event, I'd say that the car has more in it than was shown just then. So just doing a conservative first run to get a time on the board. Possibly that driver's first time doing the skid pad, hard to say, but I think that car definitely has more to come.
Absolutely. I think one of the really big things we're going to see in this competition is without a few years of running and everyone being new, not many of these drivers will have done this event or had a lot of seat time.
A lot of teams as well often do use with go-kart tracks to go testing, which is really good for testing your autocross events, but sometimes it's difficult to find an area big enough to practice skid pads. So it's one of those events we find teams often haven't done a lot of practice of coming into the event.
A little bit quicker now from Swinburne. I think there's a lot more to come out of this car though.
Yeah, so a 5.9 on the first pass there for them.
It does look good though, doesn't it?
And a 5.56 on the second run, so around a 5.7 average there, which is quite competitive.
That's a much better banked run then from Swinburne.
University of Waikato queuing up here as well for their first run. Again, as you saw in the acceleration event, quite an impressive aero package on this car. So we'll be keen to see how this handles the corners.
Yes, I know I was speaking to some of the students in Waikato, and they felt that the acceleration event was probably going to be their least competitive one, but they're looking for a really good run in this skid pad. We also see Victoria University lined up afterwards, so the IC cars getting out fairly early. We're not seeing as much of the electric cars. Driver fairly tentative on the first lap. A fairly slow banking run there from Waikato.
Yeah, so a conservative first run there. They started with a 7.5 on their first pass and then it's down to a 6.9 on the second one. So I suspect there's also a lot more to come from that car. The driver just slowly working their way in.
Absolutely, and I think it's really experience of the driver there, and it's much better to take it easy the first run if you haven't driven something like this and then try and increase the time. It's far worse for nerves if you go too hard early and make a mistake. You can already see there's a lot more intent from the driver.
This car looks like one of the ones we spoke about running the wider track philosophy this year, and this is the one event where the wide track is the biggest benefit to you because there's no real direction changes in the timed lap. So this is an event where that extra track width, reducing your load transfer and the extra aerodynamic area can be a benefit.
Yeah, they're using that width now. They've gone a lot faster in that run than the previous one. A good spurt out at the end there.
Yeah, so a 5.7 and a 5.8 for their two passes there.
Yeah, that's a much better banking run from Waikato. They'd be very happy with that.
Yeah, great to have this team back at the event, so well done.
And I think you see, if you look at the car going through the track there, there's not a lot of width to a Formula SAE track. So when you do make a wider car, you're much closer to the cones. And if you do hit any of these cones, you get a time penalty. And on a skid pad, the time penalty is severe enough that it almost invalidates the lap.
Yeah, so we've got the Victoria University Motorsport team lining up here for their first attempted skid pad, possibly the crowd favourite as far as the noise goes for this car, giving it a little warm-up on the start line. And yeah, so this will be their first attempt at this event, and we suspect this will be a more impressive showing for this event than we saw in the acceleration, so we'll see how they go.
Absolutely fantastic to see Victoria University here, and a really well turned out car. Driver just taking it a little bit easy going into the skid pad there. This is not a time section. And now they begin. So first lap here, they need to warm up, get the car settled, and then try and do the faster time on the second lap. So a very conservative run here. And the driver has gone off course there.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's actually a deceptively complicated thing to do, the skid pad. Sometimes it looks quite easy from the outside, but once you get out there, there is quite a sea of cones, especially at the level that you sit down so close to the track. So it's not uncommon to see drivers get a little bit lost in that event, but hopefully they come back to the pits and have another look at the track, and we can get a solid lap put in on their second attempt.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not the first time we've seen this. This is a fairly regular thing for drivers that haven't been through there. It is quite confusing when you look at the track from up here, but it's just as confusing when you're down in the car.
As we mentioned in the acceleration event this morning, the fit and finish of this car is extremely impressive, especially for a first-year vehicle. And in fact, probably the best turnout of a bodywork and aerodynamic package I've seen on a first-year vehicle for quite a long time. So, yeah, getting that car to that kind of level of fit and finish and through the scrutineering into the events is extremely impressive. And yeah, I had the privilege of judging these guys in the design event yesterday, and some of the people running, in charge of the design of the vehicle actually had quite a good fundamental understanding of what they were doing. And yeah, really, the car is a conservative first-year design in terms of some of the mechanical systems, but their understanding was really quite good. And we're expecting to see, this team really come along in the next couple of years.
And they're doing a great job so far. They've got a good start in both of the dynamic events. If they can start and finish all events, they'll be doing very well for a first effort here. Driver definitely aiming to push a little bit more. The odd thing is as you go faster in this event, it gets easier to do the right path because the car has less turning ability once you get it up to speed. So he's done that one successfully, and unfortunately another off course.
Yeah, might be a wise choice for this team to pull back to the pits and have maybe get the driver out to actually come and watch a couple of other teams do a lap, and might be looking at it from the outside and watching how other teams go about it might be just a good reference for which direction to take the turn in that centre part.
Yeah, and the temptation is sometimes when the driver makes a mistake like that is you can be critical on the drivers, but of course the success of a team once we get out there is on all of the members on the team. So anytime you get a finish earlier, you get more time to test your drivers. So driver training is a really important part of this competition, and that's one of the difficulties with this team is not only are they building a car, but they're building a team, they're building drivers.
100%, yeah. And really, a car is only as good as the team that builds it and runs it. So, getting that team together and building the knowledge over multiple years and coming to a competition the first time is really the first big step in moving forward. So I think they've done a great job already.
And I think we see Newcastle again out for another early run for their second. So getting the runs in very early. It worked well for them in the acceleration event.
Yeah, so still the fastest car we've seen so far, Newcastle, with a 5.3. So we'll see how they go this time with maybe a few tune-ups.
I do like how well turned out this car is. It's very well built. There's some great composite work on it. The aerodynamic package has had a lot of thought go into it.
And a 5.564 for that first pass.
Yeah, that was a good run by the second driver there. Oh, and he's handled that dip quite well.
And a 5.42 on the second pass as well. So a really good job there from Newcastle.
Yeah, excellent run. They'll be very happy with it. And usually the driver will be a little bit faster on their second run. So very likely to see him just go straight back out while there's a little bit of heat in the tyres and see if he can shave off another tenth or two.
Yeah, first run for that second driver, they're almost matching what they did with the first driver. So I suspect his second run could go even faster. His or her, I should say.
This is turning out to be a great competition for Newcastle. Now starting to push it. But we see that speed change part way through the turn, so hopefully that slower start into that first lap won't hurt them too much.
5.563 on the first pass.
Yeah, I really felt if they pushed a little bit earlier at the start of that thing, it would have been a 5.3. But this looks quick.
And a 5.403 for the second pass. So almost matching what that first driver did.
Yeah, so a nice solid run there. I really think that warm-up on that first lap, he didn't really come out of that onto the speed, and you saw he was about a third of the way through or a quarter of the way through the turn before he really got up to the full potential of that car.
Yeah, it's very important in this event to use that first untimed lap to get the car up to speed and find sort of the limits of the grip of the four tyres, so that once you enter the timed section, the car is already doing sort of the maximum speed that you can achieve, and you just hold that all the way around.
And now I think eyes are going to be on this track very intently now, because we see University of Auckland here, the winners of the acceleration event by quite a margin. If they can do well here, they're really going to put a stamp on this competition. I'll tell you, when you hear these electric motors whir up like that, it sounds like the future. Something from Blade Runner or something.
Yeah, certainly is. That's the unmistakable sound of an in-hub gearbox going on there, or 4 of them to be exact. So we'll see what this first run looks like.
The lovely sound of straight cut gears. It's a good solid run, but unfortunately the driver has gone off course. And that wasn't really at the speed that Auckland would be looking for.
Yes, hopefully this driver can get some instruction from their team members and put in a good banker lap on their second attempt.
And I think this puts it into perspective. We look at a team like Auckland, who are really quite an experienced team, have put out an absolutely fantastic car, and you just see how difficult this skid pad event can be, that even a team with that much history is having the same sort of issues. And I think this is what we were talking about earlier on, is there's just so little experience in the teams this year. Normally you would be bringing to comp a driver squad that most of the driver squad has driven in the comp before and had a lot of miles, but of course it's been a long time since the last competition. I think most people would say here that it's been too long since the last competition, and we're glad to be back.
100%. Yeah, exactly. It's even some of those things, yeah. Even if you aren't a driver that competed in that event previously, sometimes just having teammates that have done it can be really good knowledge passed down to you from those drivers, and helps us eradicate some of those small mistakes that we're likely to see this weekend. And that's no shame on the teams that are here. Obviously, everyone's been in the same boat, and there's very impressive teams and cars turned out. So, yeah, the mistakes that we're seeing probably aren't super surprising, but it'll be probably the team that makes the least of those mistakes this weekend that comes out on top.
And this is a much quicker run now. Auckland will be smiling seeing this. Well, that's really unfortunate. But that definitely showed that there's a lot more in this car, so hopefully they've got a driver there that they can put in. And we see that a very, very good team that has absolutely thrashed everyone in the acceleration has not managed to put a time on the board for their first banking runs. I know one team that will be pretty happy seeing that, but I'm fairly sure that Auckland are going to bring it in the next time round. We're not seeing too many teams lined up ready to go. I mean, Newcastle are there waiting to see if they get an opportunity to run again. But we have UTAS lining up. This is a beautifully built car from the University of Tasmania. I think I'd go as far to say that this is the best car I've seen out of University of Tasmania in terms of fit and finish. It's a beautiful, beautiful machine.
Yeah, the bodywork is definitely a high quality. And this sort of goes back to what we were mentioning earlier about, as a general rule, all of the teams we've seen here this year have really stepped it up in terms of the level of their composite work in general, but also their fit and finish on all the components of the car. And this is a great example of that.
And I think that is really the spirit of this competition, is to advance engineering and automotive engineering in Australia. And engineering does well when we lift all universities up and all student capabilities. So seeing these teams deliver really well-built cars is quite encouraging for Australia in general. While a lot of these engineers go into the automotive industry, so many more of them end up in all of the engineering fields in Australia, whether it's manufacturing, resources, agriculture, or any form of engineering. So it's a great place to hone your skills, and if you can build one of these cars, you can generally get involved and build just about anything else. You can really see the attention they've played to getting that centre of gravity really low, which will help them here in this event.
Yeah, definitely. And also moving, with a quite heavy battery accumulator and motor in the back, they've also moved the driver quite far forward over the front axle in this car to try and get that weight distribution quite even across both axles. And if that's worked out well, then we should really see that result in this event.
Well, that looks like a good first circle.
Yeah, that was a 6.3 on the first circle, so fairly conservative, but they've should have this time for the second lap in a moment. And a 6 flat for that as well. So a good banker lap for you, Taz, but the drive was definitely starting to build up towards the end there.
Well, that quite surprises me. It looked a little bit quicker than that. But a great banking lap to start with. I think there's a lot more in that car. I'm really hoping to see University of Tasmania as a frequent competitor in this. At times they've been on and off, and sometimes in the comp, sometimes not. But if they can build cars like this, they should be here every year.
Yeah, driver heading off on their second lap now. Hopefully this will be definitely some good intention accelerating into the circle.
Yeah, driving with intent here. Oh, and you can hear the motors coming on and off here. Even though it's not as upsetting as the ICs, it's still going to affect the lap.
Yeah, 5.9 on that first pass, so knocked a 10th off straight away.
Yeah, I actually think there's probably a little bit too much throttle change going on that's unfortunately upsetting the car.
And a 5.98 for the second run, so yeah, improved slightly and on the board. That puts them into 5th place, right behind University of Sydney.
Yeah, I think if they can find the throttle point at which they can do that lap and hold that throttle, I think they'll have a quicker time.
Yeah, exactly. So anytime, obviously, with a race car, you're sort of transferring load from one axle to the other, you lose overall grip. So trying to keep that throttle consistent all the way through the lap and keep all 4 tyres in contact with the road and with even vertical loads on them as much of the time as possible, generally really results in a much faster overall lap time.
My colleague back in Western Australia is a co-faculty advisor with me at ECU. He was a bit of a skid pad expert, and even when we had non-aero on the car as full mechanical grip, he could do 5-second runs and held the record for a while. And his trick was to really get his foot alongside the side of the chassis and have minimal throttle input to the car.
See, University of Newcastle out here for another run. Here. 5.44 for that first lap for Newcastle, so a 10th off their best so far.
Looks like I lost a little bit of speed there.
And a 5.36 on the second lap, so that could be their best combined average so far, I think.
Yeah, and I think there was even more in that. I think around that dip, it looks like they lost a tiny bit of speed. I think without that, they would have got a 5.2.
Yeah, still once again, maybe a little bit too much modulation on that throttle percentage, so trying to keep that as steady as possible might give them some gains on another run.
Yeah, one thing I'm noticing from this car is I think this is going to go quite well in the autocross endurance. It looks like quite a stable car. Okay, Newcastle, looks like they're being asked to come off. I think these are extra runs for Newcastle,
I think this is, yeah. So I'd say because Monash are queued up there, they're going to pull Newcastle back and let Monash go for their first run. Obviously, the cars that haven't had a run yet get priority, so we'll get a chance to see what this Monash car can do.
Well, Monash, this is one of their events that they're very proud of. They've won this event many times. It'll be interesting to see how this car goes. This is probably one of their more aggressive aero packages they've built, and they're well known for getting a lot of downforce. And it's a university that has a good aerodynamics research program. They have I think the largest wind tunnel in the Southern Hemisphere. They do use a lot of computational fluid dynamics. They really know their stuff when it comes to aerodynamics, and this car is really quite impressive.
Yeah, Monash really were one of the teams that sort of pioneered the use of aerodynamics in Formula Student in the world. They definitely weren't the first team. They weren't the first team to run wings at all, but they were the first team to sort of make them work and start winning events with them. And I think really they set up a chain reaction across the world once they started to make that work. And especially when they went overseas, initially there was quite a lot of detractors from that strategy. But once they saw the speed they got on track, I think that opinion swung around pretty quickly.
Well, I remember being in the competition in 2002, and the late, great Carol Smith said that this competition was waiting for a team to do aerodynamics right, and he thought that Monash were right on the game. So as early as 2002, they were running aero, but this is, unfortunately, it looks like the car has stopped out in the skid pad.
Hard to see here whether the T-tail's still flashing, whether that car's tractor system's still on or not.
It is flashing, the light is flashing.
Could hear a pin drop in the crowd at the moment, a lot of silence, everyone nervously waiting to see if this car will get going again. Even if it doesn't right now and they have to push it back, there's still plenty of time left for them to resolve whatever's going on and get a lap time on the board here. So,
and this is a real turn in the competition. Hopefully Monash will get on top of this, but we haven't had a good early run from Auckland. But Monash are running again.
Slowly.
Oh, this is...
All right, so yeah, as they get that first warm-up lap, they still actually haven't tripped the timing beams. This can still be a good run here. Oh, one cone.
Oh, hit a cone. Unfortunately, that's going to be... And the driver has made it. And I think this is just reinforcing. We're seeing here an absolute dominant team in Australia, and has made the same mistake that a number of teams have made.
Yeah, the two hot favourites coming into the weekend really are have so far made critical mistakes in this event. So it really just does go to show how many different disciplines and different skill sets the team members need to have to master this competition. And that's something Monash have done very well in the past. But again, they've been affected just as hard as anyone by this COVID situation in the last couple of years. So yeah, it's really no surprise to see these kind of things creeping into literally anyone in the competition.
Yeah, I think it's been a good 10 years since I've seen a driver error from a Monash driver. So this is really showing that this competition is really anybody's to win at the moment. They run a very, very slick program at Monash. They have a wonderful program of engineering projects. They have great success in a number of other areas in recycling plastics and rocket clubs and I think that a whole host more robotics clubs as well.
I think they got like a lunar rover project going on at the moment as well. They definitely do. They're one of those unis that definitely engage a lot in the very practical project-based engineering, and that has definitely shown up in the sort of the skill set that the students coming through that university have coming out of it.
And that really built on the back of the Formula SAE program. So it's great to see that the Society of Automotive Engineers has not only contributed to automotive development here, but encouraged project-based learning throughout universities. And it's amazing to think of just how many students have benefited by project learning throughout Australia, just because it's got a real good start in Society of Automotive Engineers. I'm unsure what's going on here. Maybe the driver's unaware that they can go, or... Okay, we have a flashing red light, but it was going green. I'm still unsure of what the lights are in the electrics. Could you explain it to us, Isaac?
I would like to say I can, but I have to say I can't remember right now which colour of the T-cell is the correct one, so I'm not going to tell you the wrong answer. But I will go on a mission soon and find out.
Of course, you do need some sort of visual indicator that the tractive system is live. Otherwise, you don't know that the vehicle is actually on.
Up and running again now, once again, can still put in a perfectly fine time here, having only broken the beam on their warm-up lap.
Well, that's quite a quick lap there.
Yeah, so that was a 5.187 on their first lap, so the fastest individual lap we've seen so far. And a 5.23 on the second, so that puts Monash to the top.
Oh, they've set the benchmark, and Really, we did not see that coming. It looked like it was going to be another hard run for them, but they've set the benchmark, currently well and truly in first place in this event.
Yep, just shows it's not over till the fat lady sings. Don't give up and you make sure you complete the event, and yeah, you can still get a result.
But you know what, I think from what we saw from that Auckland car, I think they'll be looking to come back and have a good run. Now, Sydney warming up again for another run. It's all about getting those points on the board though. I think that'll be a massive relief to the Monash team that they've got a time on the board, and they're not going to give this competition up easily.
I think there is still a lot more to come from that car. That's their first run, but they've gone to the top at the moment. I think there's other teams that will definitely give that time a run for their money, but I'm sure Monash will also come back with a vengeance in their second driver as well.
Now, it's fairly typical that teams will run their better of their two drivers in the second run, so we will see times come down. And already we see from Sydney here that this driver is coming out willing to put this time down a bit for them. Unfortunately, hit a couple of cones, so this won't end up being a good run for them.
Yeah, so that was a 6.35 on the first pass for University of Sydney. This is their second driver out there now, I believe. And a 5.99 on the second pass, so not a bad run there from Sydney.
Yeah, I think if he'd kept that clean, it would have been a pretty good banked run. I'm not sure how they did it.
I think it was a little bit slower than their first run. Their run earlier was down around a 5.7, so.
Now, the important thing for the driver here is to be able to reset and not get too upset by any mistakes that are made. This is an event that does not reward you from going too hard. He's not mucking around now.
Yep, just got to use this first lap to build up that speed and find the happy medium and then keep it consistent on the second run.
There's still quite a bit of throttle change in the back end coming around a counter steer, and unfortunately has taken the wrong path, so Sydney won't better their time there.
Looks like we've got University of Swinburne lining up here for their second driver, I believe. So they've got 2 runs on the board so far, going for their third. And yeah, this car I think definitely has a little bit more to come from it. So another one of our 4-drive cars, electric, and thinking we might see some competitive times out of Swinburne this time around. Currently sitting in 3rd place overall.
And we are seeing that some of the static event results have been posted. We don't have a full update of them, but I'm certainly smiling for one of them for our team. And a few more cars lined up, and Auckland are coming out for their second run behind Swinburne. They'll really be looking to put a time down, and I think the big advantage Monash have by having a quick run early on is they should be able to wait until the very, very end of this and have the best of conditions to see if they can drop under 5.
Yeah, so Monash actually did this in 2019. They went out, got a banker run in. I believe they actually went away and made a change to their roll centre on their car to tune the handling up a little bit. Came back out and put down the fastest time of the day in the second run. And so this is, the benefit you have with a team that's been around for a while and had quite successful cars and a lot of testing is you gain a good understanding amongst your team members about vehicle dynamics and how the car will actually respond to setup changes. A lot of teams will build a very impressive car and bring it to competition, and its capability is quite high, but they maybe haven't had the testing time to actually learn how it responds to certain changes and get their drivers to the level where their feedback can be trusted. That's definitely an advantage Monash has had in the past, and will be interesting to see if they have that kind of capability this year, knowing that the level of testing that everyone has had has been down a little bit compared to the past.
It really shows, given that it has been 3 years since we've been here, that it's not really about the availability of time for testing. It's all about intention and making sure that you are determined to get out. Teams have certainly had plenty of time since the last event. Great to see Swinburne out. Hopefully we can see a good time from them.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the teams being run by university students, they're very used to, when they have a longer extension on their assignment, taking all that time to do it and leaving it to the last minute. So it's always a battle with teams to not get too excited when they have extra time to work on their car and actually still get it done early and make sure it's well proven.
Are you speaking from experience there, Isaac?
Maybe a little bit.
Students in Formula SAE programs are well known for prioritising working on cars and working on assignments.
No comment. So yeah, 7-second pass there for Swinburne. So a pretty conservative run for the first go of their second driver, but looking to see if they can improve on their second run here.
And really, if you do end up getting graduate engineers from these sorts of programs, they're usually very impressive people because not only have they managed to build cars, they've also managed to pass all of their assignments and exams with very little preparation.
Yes, if there's one thing that the Formula SAE teaches you, it's time management and balancing a very high workload. So I think you find that's a very common trait amongst a lot of graduates from this competition.
Certainly, I've enjoyed working as a lecturer at ECU and being a faculty advisor and just seeing the amount of growth that students go through in these events, and you really see them mature as engineers. And really, the preparation is fantastic for industry. So, Swinburne is a little bit stalled out there.
So Swinburne stopped out on track at the moment. Hopefully they'll get that thing fired up and we can get them on a second run. A few cars queued up. Looks like they're rolling now, so this is great news. And the car looking like it's definitely got plenty more potential in it. Oh, good. Yeah, so unfortunately slowing down, maybe not a problem, but maybe just preparing for the first run here. Just got to wait and see. Doesn't look great. Yeah, unfortunately the car's stopped out there at the minute. We'll just see what the issue is. Again, as they're still in their warm-up lap, if they can get this thing going, similar to Monash, they can still actually put a time down on the board here. So we'll just see what the issue is, and maybe with sometimes with these electric cars you can get away with doing just as you do with a computer, a power off, power on factory cycle, and sometimes they come good again. So depends what the issue is, of course, but possibly we can get this sorted and they can get their run in.
Yeah, this is unfortunate to see. Normally when an IC car sort of stops on there, you tend to find that there's a bit of smoke, but if we see smoke coming from an electric car, you get out of the way very, very quickly.
Working? Yep.
Not that I'm saying there is any smoke, so I'm seeing a little bit of panic there. I didn't want to give the commentator's curse there. No, but there is no sign of what's going on wrong here, but with an IC car you'd normally hear a bit of crunch and the heads drop, but with these electric cars there's so many systems involved there that it can be difficult to diagnose it from the side of the track. My apologies there to anybody from Swinburne that may have had their heart in their throat for a moment.
Yeah, there was about 10 Swinburne team members go completely white for a few seconds there. And Swinburne getting pushed off the tracks. Hopefully they can get that resolved and get out for another run.
Looks like Isaac's going to get down on the roving mic, so if you see a person come up to you with a microphone, please feel free to chuck in some commentary. I'm not sure we're hearing anything from Isaac, but maybe a bit of an interpretive dance and I can do some interpretation from here. Fiercely speaking to Curtin, it's good to see them lined up.
So I'm down here with the team.
We've got one of the mics cutting out, but we have Auckland going out now. They really need to put down a time here. There's a lot of points in skid pad, and they'll be wanting to take some of those out of Monash's advantage. They really need to get a bank time on this first time round to ensure they get some of the points. Okay, looks like he's got a time there. And that was a 6 second on that first lap. Okay, and a 5.5 on the second. So that is a good bank, but it's quite a bit of a distance away from where Monash were. They'll be looking to go straight back out, I think, and try and get a little bit closer. I'm fairly sure that Monash will be able to do better than 5.1.
Yeah, getting a little bit of warmth into the tyres here, Auckland, for their second run here. So yeah, definitely a conservative first run, but we'll see what these guys can do. Yeah, after their win in the acceleration event, we're expecting big things from this run here.
This looks tight.
Yeah. 5.6 on the first pass. Building up on the second one, possibly a little bit quicker. And a 5.24 on the second pass for University of Auckland. So that puts them into second place.
Yeah, that's a good run from them. And we see that they absolutely dominated that acceleration event, but they've dropped a lot of speed there to Monash. So this is still anybody's game. And I guess the team that I'm really looking forward to see coming out is that University of Adelaide. They were up amongst it in the acceleration. And if they can put a good run in, they might put themselves in for contention here as well. Now we have a couple of IC cars lined up. We have the Waikato car coming out again, and behind it the ECU car lined up. These cars were fairly close in the acceleration event, so it'll be interesting to see who has a bit of an edge in skid pad. A little bit of an issue starting the Waikato car, but away we go. Driver coming out there fairly quickly. Their previous best was a 5.6 on one of the circles. Doesn't look like they're up to speed yet. And a 7.3. Unfortunately, that's not going to be better than their previous one, but hopefully this driver gets their eye in and is able to come back around a bit quicker the second time. And a 6.8 on the second lap. Nice clean run though. And a cutout there. Hopefully they'll be able to get it restarted soon and go straight back out. These KTM engines by standard do their timing through a map sensor on the intake for the sync signal, and their normal RPM signal is coming from the crank. When you run a restricted motor on them, they're quite difficult to have that sync signal, so it's not uncommon for these engines to run in a wasted spark or a batch fire mode. It does make them a lot more difficult to start, especially with that restricted. Once they get going, they tend to be fairly reliable, so it's quite difficult to do these things. And usually with these IC motors, if you can get a nice reliable start, you're half of the way there.
Yep, so ECU firing into life here. Going out for their first skid pad run. Now this is an event we think that this car should be quite capable at. So an extremely light car, I think the lightest one at the competition this year. Only 155 kilos, so that's without a driver obviously, but that's definitely an extremely light car. Running a beam axle configuration as we discussed this morning. And yeah, looking for a very impressive run here in this one. Running the smaller Hoosier tyres, the 16-inch inner diameter tyres. And we'll see what this car can do around the skid pad.
Well, this is actually the driver's first time driving skid pad. So he'll be hoping to just get a time on the board. But this is, again, quite a slower run, but it's clean so far. And that's a 7.8, so very slow on that first one. But at least clean. A 6.54. So hopefully zip back around and have another shot at it. Unfortunately, this driver has done a lot of work this year on the car. Was unfortunate to miss out all of the prep time. Was stuck in a hotel room with COVID for all up until the comp started, but tested negative and is absolutely positive that he wants to give this a go. And this looks a little bit quicker, but still not at the sort of pace we saw from the other IC teams. A 6.8, so a quicker one on that run. Bit quicker now. And a 5.6, okay, so it looks like they can really have a bit more of an effort. That's a much better banking time. It shows there's a little bit more in this car still to come. And they'll be actually quite happy with that. Sixth place so far, but sitting behind University of Waikato. But looks like ahead of University of Sydney. But again, these times, they don't take the average of the two, the ones we're giving, and it looks like that Sydney did actually have a pretty good average. It looked like their left and right hand turns were pretty close to each other. But definitely they'll be looking to improve on that time, but very, very happy that the team has put in a time. Now, absolutely fantastic to see Curtin lined up, one of the West Australian teams here, and I'm sure everyone at this competition would love to see trophies go back to the West, and that I'm not alone with that. And Curtin are a great competitor over West, and really have shifted from producing very, very tidy petrol cars to now their first EV.
Yes, I just spoke to the boys from Curtin just before they went out for this run. They were all primed and ready to go for acceleration this morning, and the car blew a main fuse, so they basically had to get in the guts of the car and change the fuse out, which actually meant they didn't make it out for the acceleration event, but they are confident it's fixed. Car's running, as we can see at the moment, and they're very, very excited to get out there for this event and get some points on the board with their first electric car, which is a very impressive achievement.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic to see them. We actually had a bit of a safety training course over at Curtin, where all of the three West Australian universities went to talk about and learn about electrical safety. They're a very generous team with their time and their information. And a 5.8. That's a very good banking time from Curtin there. They'll be very happy with that. The first lap was a 6.7 on that, but they massively improved, and that driver, I'm sure, will have learnt from that experience. And they do produce very nice looking cars. The carbon work they put together is quite handy. This is also their first monocoque car, so they've had a lot of firsts with this vehicle.
Yeah, quite ambitious to go from a tube frame combustion car to a monocoque electric car at the same time. Having had experience from doing that in the past, I can tell you it's not always a great idea if you don't have the resources to make it happen. But yeah, big props to Curtin for getting this car here this year. Quite an aggressive aero package as well, which we've often seen from them. But yeah, the car definitely looking like it actually has some quite good potential this weekend. First pass there was a 6.06, and lining up now for their second lap, so we'll see what happens, speeding up a bit. And a 5.43 from Curtin, so definitely getting some good speed out of that car. So not far behind Newcastle there. That probably puts them in 4th place in the EV class at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic run for them. They'll be really happy with that. As much as they would have been disappointed not to make the acceleration event, an event that when they were in ISC they've been very successful at. They'll be overjoyed to see the car out. And if you do get a decent run on this skid pad, it's usually a good indication of how you're going to go once you get out into autocross and endurance. Usually teams have their best drivers saved for the autocross and endurance, so you tend to see the cars at their absolute best performance on the Sunday. Great to see these cars coming through. University of Sydney line up again, but we have coming out next the University of Adelaide. Now they did very, very well in that acceleration event. It's a very well sorted car and looks like a very well sorted team. You see a lot of the University of Adelaide students around the track at the moment. Very bright shirts, very easy to pick up. And this is a beautiful car. I've got to say, this is probably one of my favourites when it comes to the appearance of the car.
Yes, this team opting to go not with the wings on their car, but definitely a quite well sorted and developed under tray package, which is actually the most efficient aerodynamic device you can get on the car in regards to producing lift with very little drag. So just because there's no wings doesn't mean this car won't be producing a decent amount of downforce going around the track. And coupled with those Goodyear tyres, it definitely looks like it actually has quite a good handle on the cornering. 5.8 on their first pass and looking what they can do on the second. And a 5.6, so that's an average of 5.7 for Adelaide across their 2 runs. Popping them into 7th place overall.
And this is what I thought would happen with what Auckland have done is they've opened the gate here, and Adelaide had a great run in the acceleration event, and now they're popping it up with the other electric teams. And without the full aerodynamic package of wings, they will have a lot less drag. So likely to use a little less energy in the endurance event. So this is a comp that's going quite well for Adelaide so far. And that was a 5.5. This is being very well driven. It looks like they've got a bit of time in this car. And a 5.3. That's a really good run. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that's 4th place overall for them and really competitive. I mean, the fastest lap we saw from Newcastle was a 5.36 and the fastest single circle from Auckland was a 5.24. So it's very, very close up there. And of course, Monash's quickest individual circle was a 5.18. But I'm fully expecting to see Monash do better the next time they come around.
Yeah, so University of Sydney now heading out. This is definitely their second driver, maybe even doing extra runs here. I think they've already done 4 runs, so with no cars in the queue, they've actually been allowed to line up to have another crack. So with a bit more experience under their belt, they might be looking to put down a slightly faster time this time. Driver definitely driving with a little bit more gusto and a little bit more consistency on the throttle than we saw earlier. So, and a 5.64 on that first pass. And a 5.83 on the second, so averaging 5.7 for that run there for University of Sydney.
Well, I think teams here taking advantage of the ability to run extra runs if nobody's lined up, and Newcastle once again making full advantage of this. And Auckland lined up again, and Auckland will be coming out really to put a very impressive time down. They know that they've got a bit to catch. They'll be wanting to come out with 2 firsts, a first in acceleration and a first in skid pad, but they've got a bit of work to do here. Newcastle has put down good consistent times with 5.3s before. Let's see if they've managed to tune this and get anything more out, but the driver's really coming on quickly here. Let it push a little bit wide. But it looks steady into the second circle. You can hear the tyres squealing. And a 5-4. A little bit untidy there. And a 5-2. Very good run there. It was a little bit untidy on that first lap around, but if the driver can fix that, it looks like they can get really close to Monash there. That was very well driven. What do you think, Isaac?
Yeah, that was very impressive. With the way the event's running so far today, a lot of teams having a few issues and struggling to get out for all of their runs. There's definitely some slots opening up for teams to have repeat runs, and I can tell you the skid pad is definitely an event where getting a few extra runs in and more practice, getting your eye in, can really result in some faster lap times, and we're seeing that here with Newcastle so far. Sydney as well, and also University of Auckland lining up now for some more runs. So getting that chance to have another crack and really start to improve progressively and get more speed out of the car. We'll see some of these guys jump up to the top, I think. And we've just spotted something very exciting in the queue coming up. A team a lot of people have been waiting to see out on track today, and that's the RMIT combustion car. And yeah, the combustion competition so far has been pretty close, and I think these guys are really hoping to get out there and blow the comp wide open. So well, hopefully they can get that thing fired up, and we'll see what they can do. University of Auckland also heading out now for another run. Driver definitely signaling their intentions, trying to get a little bit of heat into the brakes and the tyres there. This was definitely the faster of the two drivers, judging by the helmet from the Auckland team. So hopefully they can put down a good, consistent, competitive time in this second run. A 5.5 on the first pass. A little bit untidy there on the crossover. And a 5.2 there for Auckland, so 3.5 average for them.
Yeah, there's really got to get that first lap in, and I think a 5.2 would be a great overall time for them. It'll keep them in contention and not lose too many points once Monash comes out, but I'm sure that Auckland will want to do even better than that. It was fairly well driven there. It was a great run from Newcastle earlier on, and RMIT will be coming out to really get some points on the board here. They were really one of the top contenders for the IC trophy this time around, and they've lost a lot of points in the acceleration with some starting issues, but they'll be looking to claw as many back as they can.
Yes, obviously a few issues getting this car fired up at the acceleration event. They've had a little bit of time to work on it, possibly a battery change, and we'll see how they go here. Definitely some impressive aerodynamics work on this vehicle and good understanding of the vehicle dynamics. So two of those things are really going to play into their hands in the skid pad event, as it really is a test of what the vehicle can do in a steady state cornering situation. And yeah, expecting big things from this car here.
Yeah, big focus on aerodynamics. I think everybody watching willing this car to start right now. And as we've said before, this is no small feat to get these engines started. They're quite difficult to get started. For quite a few years in the IC competition, the reliability of the singles was nowhere near the reliability of the fours. And over the years, the teams have managed to iron out a lot of those bugs and get the singles as reliable as the fours. But at this stage, RMIT are not getting the result that they want. They have had a fair bit of history running these engines, so I'm fairly sure they're going to get on top of it, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But we also see a really interesting car lining up. We've got Tasmania, and they had a pretty good solid run the first time around, and they'll be looking to make that time a lot better. And Canterbury is also lined up. So Canterbury looked like they had a very good run in the acceleration event, and everyone will be wondering just where they place on this skid pad.
Yeah, so the Canterbury car, a bit of an evolution also from their 2019 car. Still a similar sort of drivetrain system going on there, but definitely some interesting things with that car. Their accumulator they have in that car is one of the most interesting designs I've seen so far on FSAE, probably worldwide. So the accumulator, most teams choose to go for quite a large kind of singular accumulator in the back of the vehicle, which has a bit of a higher center of gravity. But what Canterbury have done is they have a really long flat accumulator all the way along the floor of their car. There's a small gap at the bottom where the driver's seat is, but there's some in the front and some in the back, and it's extremely low and slim, which is what that's going to do is keep their center of gravity extremely low, and that is really going to help them big time in this event. I
think Tasmania here is one of the few cars without a full aerodynamic package, but it was a very stable car. And I think they look very good for the autocross and endurance events if they can keep the performance that they're showing so far. And we definitely see cars lined up now. We see Victoria University back in line, Monash are back in line, UWA is lining up. It'll be great to see UWA on this. This will be the second event, the dynamic event they've run for quite a long time. But they're very confident that they're getting back to their ways. And that should be scary for all of the teams around here, given the success that they've had in the past. If they can get back into that sort of groove, it's really going to push a few teams.
Yeah, 100%. As we mentioned earlier, that back in the 2000s, Australia as a whole, the top teams in Australia really were regarded as some of the best in the world, and UWA were right at the forefront of that for a couple of years. I believe they went over to America when they had the Formula SAE sort of world championships there, and they won that on one occasion and had a couple of really strong podiums on other years as well. So they really were at the forefront of sort of Formula SAE worldwide for a few years, and not just with actually going about it in a quite different way to what we've seen with Monash in recent years, where Monash really have gone down the path of simple, extremely well-proven cars with a really evolutionary design. For a period there, UWA had some really interesting, innovative technical features and quite aggressive designs on their vehicles, and managed to get them running and tested quite well. And what that meant was when the cars were running, they were extremely competitive and did really well in the design events worldwide especially. So some of the innovations were really impressive to some of the judges overseas and in Australia. And they actually weren't just impressive in a hypothetical, theoretical sense. They actually resulted in quite impressive dynamic performance for the car on the track as well. So yeah, definitely some good history from the team there. And I had the privilege of visiting them earlier in this year, and there's definitely a lot of that knowledge still sticking around in the team. So I think, yeah, if they can get their processes back up and running again, which they've shown this weekend with a quite impressively turned out car, I think they will be ones to watch in years to come.
Yeah, and of course they had one of their famous drivers was Pete Marsh, they used to thaw out each year and get out running, and as quite a bit older than some of the teams, but UWA have found Pete Marsh's older brother to come and drive for them this time. They've got a fantastic driver that they found that is really into cars, and I'm told he's very impressive, and we'll have to watch him in the endurance event. It looks like Tasmania's having a few issues here. I think one of the advantages of getting out early is you do get to find these issues. Oh, they were being held up, but they're on their way now. So let's see if they can get a quick time here. But definitely a lot of cars queued up, ready to go. Drivers taking a bit of time to get up to speed here. Doesn't look like they're quite up to where they were before. A 5.78, that's not too bad a run from them. But I think there's a lot more speed in this car. A 5.79, very consistent, but I'm pretty sure this car's got a little bit more in it. But a good run from University of Tasmania there. You can see they've done some pretty good work around that suspension. It's a very stable car. That's going to serve them very well in the rest of the events. But we see University of Canterbury lined up. They've had a very good run so far. They'll be looking to put a really solid time on the board. It's a beautifully painted car. I think probably my favourite colour car here. Beautiful metallic paint job. Just warming things up. Trying to get as much temperature into these tyres. A little bit of a slower warm up. A 5-5. Oh, and unfortunately the car has slowed right before it's gone over the start-finish line. And that's very unfortunate from Canterbury. That looked like a really good banking run going into that.
We've only got 3 teams on the infinite runs in the lineup at the moment. How many teams still need to not do infinite runs? 5 at the moment in the lineup. What about hanging out the back? Haven't done a count at the back.
We see quite a few teams lined up. Some haven't run their second run yet. We see Victoria University, Monash. Then Western Australia, who haven't completed a run yet, and behind them Curtin. So we've got a couple of West Australian teams there. University of Adelaide, they'll be looking to improve on their run as well. We've got a few teams that haven't completed their second run. We'll be looking to see whether ECU could do a little bit better than their first run. And Waikato's lined up again, ready to go. Everyone's lined up, looking to get the runs in.
Yeah, so definitely starting to get to that time of the day. The track's cleaned up a bit. Some of the rubber's gone down, and all the teams are really starting to be getting nervous about getting out there and making the most of the good track conditions. Had a quick word to Monash in the queue, so no car changes for them between the first and second driver, but they did download the data, have a bit of a look at what the driver could do better. Gave the driver a bit of steak and juice and said, go and have fun and see what they could do in this second run. Vic Uni out here as well, also about to take on their second driver. They put down a good banker earlier on, but let's see what they can do here. (6.2) on the first lap for Vic Uni. Definitely picking up speed here on the second lap. And a 5.7. Well done. Definitely looking like that car has a little bit of body roll going on there. You can see the inside front tyre lifting off the ground a little bit, so maybe some stiffer springs might be on the menu for that car before tomorrow, but they've got it out there, they've got some points on the board, and it's looking really good, so well done to them. It's got some get up and go, that's for sure. Very aggressive start to the lap here. Clearly, as you can see, lifting that inside tyre. So maybe definitely some tuning needed for this car, but the driver's certainly giving it a good crack.
That was a 7, and unfortunately, this is really showing a bit of a setup issue here. It's reasonably common to see a car lift an inside rear, but it's very rare on a corner to see the car lift an inside front. So it looks like that front end might be set up a bit too stiffly. And that'll be an interesting car to drive in the autocross event. And a 6 dead then. So it definitely looks like a few balance issues that could be worked out with a bit of tuning there. So really be worth that team maybe going and having a chat to some of the other teams around setup. But I haven't seen when's the last time you saw an inside front lift by itself without the inside rear going up as well?
Yeah, hard to say. I have seen inside fronts before, but not in skid pad for sure. Sometimes in autocross in some of the slaloms when you're really coming out of some of the slaloms with a bit of power on, but it's a little bit uncommon, but definitely some improvements to come from that car. But as a new team, they've got the car here and running, and that's the kind of knowledge that they'll build up over the next couple of years, and hopefully see that car looking a bit quicker tomorrow.
And here we go. I think there's currently Monash University is sitting number 1. Their fastest single lap was a 5.1875. Their other was a 5.2325. So let's see what they can do with this. A 5.5. and a 5.3. So let's see what this driver will do on the next time around, but not quite at the pace we saw from the first driver, but nice clean runs. Be really good to see this car fully unleashed and what this aero can do. I don't think we're seeing the best of this car yet.
Another thing Monash have definitely done well in the past is a lot of teams maybe have one or two sort of gun drivers and they save them for the autocross and endurance events, but Monash definitely in previous years have made sure all of their drivers were all practiced and tuned up to a very high level. It's possible this year with a little bit less testing time on this car that maybe some of the drivers haven't had quite that amount of seat time, but this driver definitely looked like they're picking up the pace on the second run here. A 5.2 on the first lap of the second run. Definitely a really consistent throttle percentage on this car, so the driver has definitely looked at that data and knows what's going to make a good run. And a 5.3. So that's pretty much equaling what their first driver have done. There's still some time left in the event, so it's possible we might see them back later, but still in first place right now for Monash. See the University of Western Australia lined up now. I had a brief word to them in the line as well. They said they definitely have done some skid pad practice with this car and this driver. The driver was claiming some pretty impressive times in testing, so we'll see how the surface compares here at Winton and what they can do, but they're definitely feeling pretty confident coming into this event.
Yeah, absolutely, Isaac. In my experience, that as a team, our times in testing are always a good half a second quicker than we find at comp. So there's always something in the surface of comp that does us in. I'm fairly sure acceleration runs of 2.5 seconds and skid pads of 4 seconds are all about the testing track, but it all has to be done here at comp. But I think one of the things that has really excited the UWA team in this year is just how much they've been able to improve their organisation. They have got the car out multiple times. They have been able to get some testing done, which has been a long time for them getting back. And you can see on the rear wing, their rear wing slogan is "We're back, baby." Very smooth. Looks reasonably well sorted. A 5.8. And a 5.5. Very smooth. Great banking run there. So UWA definitely back. They've got times on the board for acceleration and now times on the board for skid pad. This team's fairly confident of where they're going in the future too.
Yeah, so definitely you might notice one of the quietest electric FSA cars we have here. Obviously the common drivetrain solutions for electric cars are a chain drive or the in-hub straight cut gearboxes, both of which definitely make a distinctive sound when the car's driving. This car using, a semi-custom developed differential, borrowed from a Ford Escort, so they've taken the internals out of a Ford Escort differential, made some modifications and machined up a completely custom outer housing, and the motor drive shaft goes directly into that, so it really makes very little noise and probably quite an efficient drivetrain system as well. So 5.6 on that first run here, so definitely taking up a little bit more speed. Definitely a well-balanced looking car for sure. And a 5.5 for that run, so consistent number of runs for the second driver there.
And I know some of the team members here that are in their last opportunity to be at a comp have been with this team for a while and done a lot of work on this, and they'll be absolutely overjoyed to see this. They really have resurrected this team. It's been a long, long time since UWA has had a running car at competition, and not only have they bought a running car to competition, but it's a beautiful running car. It sounded great out there, and it looked very stable. I think this car's looking very good for autocross tomorrow. Now curtain coming out, this is the Battle of the West Australians. Hearing a little bit of sound coming from curtain there. I'm not sure if that's chain noise. Taking it fairly easy on their way out. We also have the ECU team has joined up in the queue, another West Australian team ready to go. But I reckon the team that is really looking to get out there amongst it is the University of Adelaide lining up again. So taking it easy on this run. Speeding up a little bit there on this second run. And a 6.7 there from Curtin. And a 5.8 from Curtin there. So a great solid run there. Now the driver has got the confidence now that their runs were clean. They should be able to go out and push this a little bit harder now.
Yeah, so definitely, conservative first run there, but this car, at least on looks anyway, looks like it definitely has some quite aggressive features with the aerodynamics and fairly well balanced looking, which is allows you to take a full advantage of what the car can do in the skid pad event. So hopefully with a bit more aggression on this second run, the driver could put down a slightly more impressive time. Picking it up slowly, but into the second lap now. .57 for that first lap. And a 5.6, so consistent run there from Curtin. Definitely that bump in the middle of the track upsetting some cars more than others. The Curtin car handling it relatively well there, but I sense that bump seems bigger than it has been in previous years, with a couple of years since we've been here last. Definitely more pronounced than some of the cars this year. Not as bad as what it was once upon a time at the old Calder Park track. We used to have a skid pad there on the front straight where there was a big change in surface in the middle, and that skid pad event was as much a test of a car's suspension and shock absorbers as it was the rest of the vehicle. So we've come a long way from there, and this is actually quite a good area to do the skid pad, but definitely still some small amounts of undulation in the surface to deal with, and that actually is still a good thing because it does separate the cars with the well sorted suspension and dynamic system from those that aren't.
Oh, a hard launch there from the University of Adelaide. They are not mucking around, getting temperature into the tyres. These Goodyear tyres, these 13s, are an amazing tyre. They're very responsive, very grippy. Car rotating reasonably well, but a little bit of instability there. A 5.5. And a 5.3, a very solid run there. So they still look like they're in fourth place overall, but I think that car looks like it's going to give a really competitive time tomorrow.
Yeah, another run here for this driver. So this will be a couple of runs this driver's done now. So that run there was almost as quick as their earlier run, matched it within a tenth of a second. So with another run back-to-back here with a little bit of tyre temperature and a little bit of experience, we should see a slightly quicker time here from this driver, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Oh, and he's going for it. Look at this.
Yeah, definitely stepped up the level of intensity this lap. 5.2.
Oh, a little bit unsettled into the entry there. That may have cost him.
And a 5.2.
Amazing result there from the University of Adelaide.
Into second place for Adelaide Uni.
That's an excellent, excellent run. That would be very, very close to Monash there.
University of Waikato firing up here. These guys have put a few decent times on the board, currently down in 9th place, but actually leading the IC cars at the moment. So currently first place in internal combustion, looking to improve their time slightly, currently sitting around a 5.6, 5.8 on their first go. So let's see what they can do this time.
They'll be pushing hard.
Running the centrally mounted exhaust outlet there under their rear wing. Looks like they had a little bit of oscillation and reverberation from under their rear wing there. Makes the car sound pretty good, but definitely a unique feature of this car.
They've been the fastest of the IC cars so far, but there's not a lot in it between them and ECU. It looks like the IC competition is very close.
5.9 for them on the first run. And a 5.80 for the second run. So quite a good run there from Waikato. Still leaving them in the same position though, currently in P9 overall and first in combustion.
Yeah, this definitely looks like this IC competition's pretty tight at the moment. So every last little tenth is going to help.
Now I've got a functioning microphone again. I might go for a roam down to the queue here and see if I can't have a chat to some of these budding engineers and drivers and see what they think of the event so far.
So Waikato may be having a little bit of a problem keeping things running there. Hopefully they'll get on top of that for tomorrow. Oh, my apologies, that's actually ECU trying to start.
So I'm down here with the University of Canterbury lining up for their second attempt here at the skid pad. Had a few issues the first time around. Do you guys want to let us know what was going on out there the first time?
We're not too sure what's going on at the moment. We're working on diagnosing the issue. We've got a few theories that we're testing out, and hopefully we'll figure them out soon.
Yeah, that's all right. A very impressive car, though. So you guys must be pretty stoked with the finish and the kind of turnout of the car that you've got here this weekend. And the fact that it's out here running is also a good thing. So are you guys looking forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, we absolutely are, and we hope all these issues are going to be resolved and the car will perform as well as it looks.
Yeah, that's very true. It does look good. So
Five,
wishing
four.
you guys the best. And Edith Cowan out there at the moment. So back to you, Kev.
Yeah, that was a 5.4 on that first run. And a 5.5, that looks like it's taken them to the top of the IC and actually quite competitive. It puts them just behind Curtin overall in 6th place. Looks like he's going to go and do another run. Very nice clean run there. This is the driver that put in the top time for the acceleration event, which is quite odd because he didn't quite get off the line there.
So I'm down here with the guys from the RMIT combustion team. They're lining up again, having had a few issues getting the car started earlier. You mind telling us what you think's been going on so far?
Yeah, so just had some battery issues, just voltage dropping a lot, so I think that's pretty much it. We've got it back to the pits, got it started a few times, hopefully it does it for the track.
Alrighty, fingers crossed. Definitely an impressive car, so we're hoping to see what this thing can do once it gets out there. Driver's got his fingers crossed, so we'll see how we go.
ECU back out and running. It looks like the inside rear is coming off the ground. It's designed to run like a go-kart. A 5.3, that's a very good run on that first circle. Let's see if you can keep it clean on the second. Really pushing hard. And a 5.4, a fantastic run there by ECU. He'll be very, very happy with that.
Yeah, definitely impressive run there from ECU. That car definitely looks like it has plenty of turn available, so that's going to be it's going to bode well for tomorrow when they get out there on the autocross track.
And they've really put it up there with the electric cars. That's now just gone a shade faster than Curtin managed to go on their fastest lap, and not too far behind where the University of Newcastle was. So excellent effort by them.
Maybe I should leave more often, Kevin. As soon as I leave, ECU start putting in weapon times.
Yeah, well, Isaac, I'm going to ask you to leave for the rest of the event.
I'll keep my distance, social distancing.
Oh, he'll be very, very happy with that. He was involved with the business case presentation as well, which they did very well on, and I think this has been a great competition for that student as an individual, but the team is very, very happy with that.
Yeah, some fist pumping from the driver on the way back in then, so definitely stoked.
But it looks like Monash have got this locked down. We still have a run from Swinburne, who really haven't managed to put down something that represents that team well, and University of Canterbury are lined up as well, and RMIT back in the line and wondering whether they can wipe the smile from the ECU faces.
Yes, this looks like it could be the first driver back out now from Swinburne, who looked like they might have been the faster of the two. So going for their extra runs now, so we haven't got a couple on the board. We'll see what they can do this time. Looking fairly smooth so far, which is a good sign. 5.3 for the first lap, so definitely much quicker there from Swinburne.
Yeah,
And
excellent.
picking up a bit of speed. And a 5-2 from Swinburne. So that puts them up into
Fantastic
third
run
place.
from Swinburne there. In terms of the fastest lap times, so that puts them in third place, but we have to see what's going to happen when they average those times.
Yeah, I think actually it's going to be even closer once they're averaged. I think Monash's fastest lap is a good tenth and a bit faster than the others, but their average is actually a bit closer to second and third. So the top three right now is extremely tight.
Yeah, that was great to see from Swinburne. It's a really well presented car. It's great to see them working through their issues and putting some speed out there. Let's hope we see a really good run from the University of Canterbury now.
Yeah, so I had spoke to one of the blokes from Canterbury in the queue just before. They're not 100% certain of what's been going on with the car, but they're going to have another go. They've got some data from it, so they're thinking they could figure it out, and we'll see what happens on this run here. That car definitely has some potential in it, so fingers crossed they can get it around.
Yeah, we still haven't seen a good run, from RMIT University yet, so we're going to see what they're capable of. The car's got a lot of downforce. It should put on a good time if they can get it started and onto the track.
Alrighty, a good start from the pit bay here from Canterbury. Driver giving it some warming up on the way up, so looking promising so far.
Yeah, this looks like a much better run.
Yeah, car looks very stable for sure. This car has been running a similar configuration for a few years and has been quite well sorted, so this is looking really good so far. And a 5-4 out of the gate for Canterbury. And a 5-3, so a very good first run there from Canterbury, getting one on the board.
Absolutely.
This competition is really starting to open up.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And we see the effect here of the skid pad really starting to clean up. The times are getting far more consistent. It's getting more easier for the drivers to keep it on and keep the G's up. And Canterbury coming straight back out for another run. They'll be really aiming to try and get a 5-2 out of this. Oh, very smooth entry. A little bit of space between the car and the cones, not quite as tight as it could be. A 5-5. Yeah, I think unfortunately the driver's a little bit wider than he was on the first time around. And a 5-4. Really have to work on getting that inside tyre right near the cones. It's very nerve-wracking because you've got to push as close as you can go while not knocking them.
It really is close at the top here. Obviously, the skid pad with a 5-second lap, a tenth of a second is actually, not a tiny gap. But so far, we've got, Monash on a 5-1-8. This is going off their fastest laps. Adelaide Uni on a 5-2-0. Swinburne on a 5-2-3. Auckland on a 5-2-4. Newcastle on a 5-2-8. Edith Cowan on a 5-3-1. And Canterbury there on a 5-3-6. So extremely tight at the top there. And really won't take much of a gain from any of these teams to jump up a couple of spots.
Yeah, I think the crowd here is willing RMIT cars to start here.
Do we want to get a clap going from the crowd? Get this car started? Yeah, good support from the crowd here. Everyone willing this car to fire up and get underway. They tell me they've got it fired up in the pits, so let's see how we go.
And this is absolutely heartbreaking at the moment, the amount of effort that goes into these cars. It's not sounding like it's turning over particularly strong there. Oh, that's unfortunate. They've called it again.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking for RMIT. Let's hope they have something back in the garage. They can get this thing sorted. At best, we can see it tomorrow, and let's hope they get some runs on the board because, this is definitely an impressive car, so that's really disappointing for those guys.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. We're coming close to the end of this, aren't we? What time do we run to, Isaac?
I'll just double-check that one before I give you any wrong information.
Yeah, I think I might have one more team that's just about to line up as well. I can confirm that in a couple of minutes.
And it looks like University of West Australia lining up for their second run. Really interesting to see what they can do here. That car looked very, very stable. I don't think they even came close to pushing the absolute limit of it, and it was a quick time last time. Now, at the moment, the fastest time from the west is held by an IC car, and UWA won't be happy with that. They'll be looking to be the best of the west out here. Obviously, there's a big difference between the IC cars and the EV cars on the acceleration event, running very different powertrains. But on the skid pad, you can almost compete side by side. So they'll be wanting to have the best time from Western Australia, and more than that, they'll be wanting to get up in high points. Let's see how this goes. This is incredibly quiet, this car. The diff design they've got, this is amazing to hear the lack of noise from this.
And generally in engineering terms, noise generally means wasted energy. So when you don't hear much noise coming from, generally that means most of the power coming out of that motor is going directly to the wheels, which is a good sign.
Very smooth, but doesn't quite look as quick as what I'd expected. A 5.8. Getting a little bit more confidence on that second run. The back end just stepping out a tiny bit there on the entry into the dip. And a 5.5. They'll be looking to keep that heat in the tyres and get straight back out there. So even with these 10-inch tyres, there are different widths of these 10-inch tyres from Hoosier, and different teams run different widths. These are the slightly wider ones. A little bit harder to get the temperature into them than the narrow ones that, say, ECU are running. But when you get into an endurance situation, they can handle quite a bit better towards the end of the endurance runs.
Yeah, and this car also running the R20 compound, which is the slightly harder of the two compounds. So yeah, once again, a little bit more difficult to get up to temperature, but should have a little bit more life in it once you get into the back end of the endurance event tomorrow. Often teams find that the softer compounds struggle a bit here in Australia because the track temperatures can be so high that they overheat the tyres a little bit, they start to blister, and they actually lose performance quite a lot late in the endurance. A lot of that also comes down to the mass of your car, so you can find some of the lighter cars get away with a softer compound tyre.
And that was a 6-second run on the first circle. A 5.6, sorry. And a 5.4. So a nice solid run there from UWA. So it looks like most of the teams that have had their runs, and the ones lining up now are looking for extra runs.
Yeah, so I believe the event closes at 3 p.m, so we still have about another 25 minutes to go here. So a few more opportunities for teams to get runs in. It looks like University of Wollongong lined up here, which I believe this is their first dynamic attempt so far this weekend. So they've obviously made it through the second inspections, and yeah, hoping these guys can get out and put a time on the board.
Oh, this is fantastic to see. Wollongong, a team with a huge history in this competition, and really the Australian competition has a lot to owe Wollongong. Very early on in the competition, they showed the world that Australians can compete on the world stage and were competitive right out of the box. And it's really teams like Wollongong that have really pushed Australian teams early on to be one of the more competitive competitions in the world. We're coming towards the end of this event now, and the gates are closing in 10 minutes. Anyone not in is not going to be able to run, but Wollongong got in, and they've just completed their first lap with a 5.4.
That's probably the fastest first lap from a first drive we've seen today, so very impressive there from Wollongong. And a 5.3, very, very impressive job from Wollongong there. Great effort. That is amazing.
That's a very good run. It's a shame they didn't get out for the acceleration because that's an incredible first run. I don't think even the teams that are currently in the podium spots went as quick as that with their first run.
Yes, that's jumped them straight up ahead of University of Western Australia and Curtin University and University of Tasmania in the EV category there.
And quite encouraging for Wollongong because this is a car without a big rear wing. They won't be carrying much drag into the endurance event, which will be great for their energy efficiency. Even though
Definitely
they're
got-
not carrying much drag, they do appear to be dragging that side pod on the ground.
Oh, and a 5.1 on the first lap there from Wollongong, fastest individual lap so far.
And a 509. Wollongong have moved into first place overall. A phenomenal drive there.
Yeah, we're told they did collect a cone there. So that is a 2-second penalty. So unfortunately, I don't think that time is going to stand, which is quite disappointing for Wollongong. But that car, out of nowhere, extremely quick around the skid pad and definitely some good potential. So they've got another driver to come yet, so they're definitely not out of this yet.
Surely we can forgive them one cone. I didn't see it. What a fantastic effort, though, getting through scrutineering out there and putting those times on the board. Absolutely incredible. They'll be really looking forward to tomorrow and some quick autocross times.
Yeah, let's hope they get that second driver in quick and get out there, because I think that, that really was an impressive run from Wollongong. So we're really hoping they can get out there and shake this up once more.
Yeah, massively impressive from them. Sydney back out. They'll be looking to improve their placing in the IC competition. Oh, a little bit sideways there on the entry of the turn. Hope that doesn't upset it too much. And he's hit a cone. And another two.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there from Sydney. I think he might be going to abort this run. Still time to get another one in if they come back to the pits. There's a couple of cars queued up, but I think there's still space if they would like to have another go. So not out of it yet.
Well, I believe all of the cars that are currently lined up have had all their official runs, so they're now running extra runs until the event closes.
Yeah, so University of Auckland lined up here, currently sitting in 5th place, but I think that car definitely has more to come from it and could be quite a threat to the guys sitting on top at the moment.
Well, I think this is actually working reasonably well for Wollongong, because I think if they line up, they still haven't had their second official run, so they should be able to push ahead of all of these teams and get straight back out there. So the organisers are giving preference to all of the teams that haven't had their official runs. So we should be seeing Wollongong go out pretty soon. And let's see if they can match the time that they did previously without any errors. And now we have the University of Auckland. They'll be looking to improve. And they are really going to push it now. The track is definitely nice and clean and rubbered in. And this is a lot faster entry than we saw last time from Auckland. Very tight in on those inner cones. And a 5.19, excellent first lap. Very tight driving there, very tight in those inside cones. And a 5.15, excellent run there from Auckland.
Yep, that puts them into 1st place overall once you account for the Wollongong penalty. So Auckland up to the top, leaving it till late.
Yeah, that was a great run from Auckland. That's exactly what they would have wanted.
There's still a few cars in line though, so don't think this event is far from over yet. Monash still lining up for another crack. We've got Curtin, the next ones to be out. Newcastle also back there. They've got a few runs in so far, but that driver and car will be well sorted by now, so expecting some faster times from them. And I think this track is definitely starting to rubber in as well. So,
yeah, that was the track, and that was also the driver. That was a brilliant drive from Auckland there. They were really tight in on those cones. They had a very good line, very tidy. They'll be very hard to beat.
Curtin driver coming in with a little bit more speed this time, so hopefully they can get a bit more out of it. A little bit of understeer from the car there, maybe something that could be tuned out for tomorrow, but might be costing them a little bit at the moment.
5.8 from Curtin there on the first lap. And a 5.5, a great run there by Curtin.
Yeah, good effort there from Curtin. Yeah, this is also a really interesting event, and actually it's quite a good lead into the autocross event tomorrow, because sometimes it does give you quite a good read on the handling balance of your car. You can find out that sometimes, if you haven't done a lot of testing prior to the event, you can get to a point where you realise your car actually has a bit of understeer or oversteer, and you have a chance overnight to make some changes and make it handle a bit better for the autocross event tomorrow.
Well, now we see Monash, and from the sound of the crowd, it sounds like this driver's name is Jimmy. but I could be mistaken.
I don't think you are, Kev.
Jimmy is being informed by his team to go get it.
Wonder if they have any driver-to-car radio to give him that formal instruction.
I think with the number of Monash students here, they could probably just yell it.
Yeah, Monash definitely favouring the very clean and smooth approach to the skid pad, and generally in our skid pad, smooth means quick, so this is looking quite good.
5-4. These Goodyear tyres are particularly good on the skid pad. They're a great tyre for this.
Yeah, Wollongong also running the Goodyears straight to the top earlier, so yeah, definitely a good tyre for the skid pad event.
And a 5-3. That won't be quite what they were looking for. They have had a lock on this event for so many years, but they might not have what it takes just this year. This is really interesting to see.
I do like this event where we have that little bit of time at the end once teams have all got their first runs in to have another crack, and teams can go out and go punch for punch, and once they see someone beat their time, they have another chance to fight back and have another go. It really makes for an exciting event, and I'm sure everyone out here is having a great time today. So,
oh yeah, it's absolutely great to see. I love this. You think you've got it picked out, and then a team comes out and puts in a ripper of a time. It looked like Auckland at the beginning of this event, with the driver had made a couple of mistakes, and they looked nowhere. And they've come back and put an amazing time on. And then Wollongong, who's still in line for their second run, had just come and put an amazing time. And if they can go clean, they may take this whole thing up.
yeah, and running very close to getting under the fives there for Wollongong their first time around. So if they stick to the ethos of running your better driver in the second run, we could be looking at possibly getting under the 5-second bracket here from this team. We'll see. University of Tasmania out there now at the moment. They were putting down possibly their best time so far with a 5-4 on the first lap.
Fantastic run.
Yeah, they definitely picked it up this time around. And a 5-6. So I think
Great
that is
run.
an improvement from University of Tasmania.
That's definitely worth a cheer. That was a great run.
Yeah, this car running a differential. You can hear that inside rear wheel spinning up, coming off the ground around the skid pad. This is not uncommon from cars running a differential, especially the electric cars. So it is something you can tune for, but doesn't cause a great loss in lap time.
Well, this is the one we've been waiting for. Wollongong just came out and surprised everybody. They probably didn't surprise themselves. I'd say if it's running that fast, they knew what they had and what they'd brought to this competition. But I think everyone here is waiting to see whether they can match those earlier times, but keep them clean. It feels like we're going back in time, seeing a really strong Wollongong car, a really tidy UWA car, and seeing these teams with great history come back with really fantastic vehicles. Let's go, Wollongong. Very, very low down to the ground, this car.
Definitely taking a slow run into it, but we'll see what this driver can do once they get into the circle.
No, this doesn't look like he's got the same sort of pace as the first driver.
Definitely running the low ride height program here in this car. A little bit of scraping on that side pod on the side, so it might be something they need to tune up for tomorrow, bring that ride height up a little bit, because I think they might wear through that amount of scraping in the autocross event tomorrow.
Yeah, and that first lap was over 6, and this one, a 6. So they're really going to need to push it a bit more. I think they may have put their best shot in first to make sure that they got a run in before the gates closed.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. They might be able to put their other driver in and get another run in. We'll see what happens. Let's not write this driver off yet. Also, they might have just been taking a conservative approach to the first lap, so we'll see what they can do here. Also can see Swinburne lining up. I feel like they've been easing their way into this event, building up progressively, and I think there's still a bit more to come from that car as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, it's still all up for the offering tomorrow. Most of the dynamic points are scored on the Sunday, and this competition is no different. A 6.2 on that first lap. And a 5.5. A good solid run there.
Round of applause for Wollongong.
But you know, I think in that first run they really made their intentions known and what they're planning for tomorrow.
All right, we've got University of Canterbury in the queue here as well behind Swinburne. I think there's definitely still some more to come from that car as well. I think they're only onto their second driver now, so they still haven't completed all of their official runs. And then RMIT Combustion still haven't given up, lining up for another go. So hopefully saving the best of luck to last for them, and we'll see what they can do.
We've still got a little bit more time left in this event. Actually, quite a lot of space under this car along the central. It's got quite a high ride height in the middle. Quite aggressive driving.
Oh. They were just really starting to build up in that second lap as well. That was looking quite quick, but unfortunately a mistake from the driver. I believe this driver has done some runs already, so hopefully that was just a one-off mistake and they can get around and have another crack on their second go.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate to see that.
We've also got the autonomous demonstration event coming up after Skid Pad later on this afternoon. Yep, so it's going to be a little bit later on this afternoon, but I have been informed that I believe both the autonomous cars that are looking good this weekend, the Monash autonomous vehicle and the QT autonomous vehicle, are both through the high voltage scrutineering and into the final stages of the autonomous scrutineering at the moment. So hopefully we'll see both of those cars out here this afternoon.
Over in Western Australia, we're not used to daylight saving, so we're not used to thinking of 6 p.m. as being the afternoon, but it's certainly interesting to still have sunlight well past 8 o'clock over here. It makes it very easy to work on cars and forget about dinner. But amazing weather for this competition and an amazing spot to be doing this. So Canterbury lined up to take another run. This Canterbury car, it looks good. They'll be looking to improve on their times. Their previous best lap was a 5.36.93. Oh,
unfortunately, a mistake there from the driver, turning a little bit too early into the second turn. This is the second driver's first runs. Hopefully, if they figure that out, they can have another crack and put in a better time.
RMIT are lined up. They're hoping they can get started and get out there with... they haven't completed any of their runs yet. Now, the track's pretty much as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, really are starting to get into the final stage of this event now. Gee, it's good to be back. It's good to have this competition up and running again, and it's really been a great day. The amount of cars we're seeing out here now putting down impressive times, it's good.
One real change that we get with a lot of the electric cars is when you had the IC cars running around skid pad, you always ran the risk that one of the teams would drop a bit of oil on the track. And so going for the very latest run was always had a bit of a risk involved with it. But of course, there's no real loss of traction if the electric cars drop a few electrons on the track.
5.9 and a 5.6 there for Canterbury, so not their fastest time so far, but they are still currently sitting in 8th place overall.
Okay, if you've got fingers, if you've got toes to cross, then cross them, because we really want to see this RMIT car out and get a time on.
Yeah, if you're an electric team and you've successfully prayed to the electrical gods in the past and know their number, please give them a call right now and send their thoughts the direction of the RMIT combustion car, because we're really hoping they can get this thing fired up.
Oh, that nearly started.
Oh, that was close.
Oh,
There was a couple of ignitions then, 1 or 2 RPM, and then it stopped, but we're getting close.
and they're calling it. Unfortunately, these batteries, they don't have too much cranking capacity in it. Most teams are running lithium-based batteries, which are absolutely fantastic voltage delivery and current delivery, but unfortunately, when you do crank a few times, they die fairly quickly. This is really unfortunate to see.
And quite a light car, the RMIT combustion car, so I suspect running a fairly light battery, but maybe it might be a design choice tomorrow to sacrifice a little bit of mass for a slightly more gutsy battery, if that means they can get that car fired up and get out for autocross.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth having a little bit of extra electrical capacity in these. And that's a real shame there from RMIT. And the gates are closed, so anybody in is getting their final runs in now.
Yes, there's quite a few cars queued up still. We've got, Newcastle about to head out, followed up by Edith Cowan University. University of WA lining up again for one more. Waikato, Adelaide, and Auckland all in the queue as well. So still quite a few cars yet to make their last run, so it's definitely not over yet.
So unsure whether there's a hard cap to the finish of this event. All teams that are in the line now have done their official runs, so these are all extra runs now. University of Newcastle, they've been the team that has been out there early and getting the runs in. They've taken full advantage of the extra runs and they've knocked a cone on that one. So unfortunately their final run won't really improve their times. That was a 5.5. And a 5.4. So unfortunately no improvement there for University of Newcastle, but you've got to be impressed by a team that is getting out and getting the runs in. They're on time and they're going to be looking very dangerous tomorrow.
Yeah, still sitting there in 6th place overall, so actually possibly 5th place with the Wollongong penalty. So they've definitely put in 2 consistent runs there with the acceleration event and the skid pad event. So with some good points on the board, they're definitely not out of it come tomorrow.
ECU starting up. This will be their last shot at it as well. The last run was very, very aggressive, but quite quick. It put them on top of the IC, and it looks unlikely they're going to lose that top spot, but there is Waikato who would like to line up and argue that point.
And University of Sydney also in the queue, I can see. So we'll see if they get time to get out there, but still a couple of combustion cars to come. But I suspect this will be the same driver in the ECU car that was in for the run before, and it was definitely an impressive run. So with another crack at the cherry, we might expect to see a little bit more time come out of this car yet.
It's a very light car, lightest car at the competition. Running the narrower 10-inch tyres. It's got a solid axle on the rear. Doesn't quite look as fast as the previous one. A 5.3 though, very good run.
Sometimes smooth is fast.
A lot less aggressive than last time, but getting the time in.
Yeah, it looks tight up against those cones.
And a 5.1, unbelievable.
Into 2nd place overall for Edith Cowan, right behind University of Auckland.
That's an incredible run there by Edith Cowan University. They'll be over the moon with that.
We're going to have to evacuate the stand up here. Kevin's fist pumping so hard, we're all in the danger zone up here.
Yeah, I'm not biased at all, but that was probably the best run we've seen in the history of Formula SAE. No, he'd be very, very happy with that. That was the same driver that put in the acceleration time for them. He's had a great day today.
And looking to salvage some pride for and take over the crown for the West Australian teams. University of West Australia now making their way out. They've put down some very smooth and consistent runs so far. Maybe lacking a little bit on the aggression side. Possibly the car might have cut out just now though.
Oh,
Driver's
really
hands are in the air, so that's a bit disappointing.
Oh, this is very unfortunate for UWA. This is not what they'd want to see. They did put in a very good time earlier on. I've got a message from the old team captain from ECU who's watching this online. It was a three-letter message that said, wow.
So, did you hear that conversation between me and David earlier? So, we're going to hold drivers briefing for autocross and endurance, and then we're pretty much going to try and get it in as quick after as we can.
Sorry.
Free, we'll aim to hold it. Sorry, when was that?
1700.
Yeah, so like I expect our driver briefing and track will probably take half an hour, 45 minutes. So, you know, they're over here ready. They don't have to stay ready until we're free to come over here and start the event.
I have been asked by the Edith Cowan University team to see if our friend Murray could have a chat on the mic, and Murray's a character that comes out sometimes in the workshop. So what do you got to say about that, Murray? Oh, that run was sweet as, bro. That's fully sick.
I might have to get some security up here in the commentary box and get this Murray bloke out of here. All right, University of Waikato lining up for another run here. The car definitely sounds like it's got a lot of power under the hood, so might be impressive in the dynamic events we have lined up tomorrow. And the driver giving it a little bit of beans in this run. Looks like it has a little bit of an oversteer bias going on, which will actually help in the autocross event because some of those tight corners are difficult to get a car turned into. So this car already shaping up quite well with the weekend progressing.
Absolutely, and they just touched the cone there, but the cone landed inside its box, so they won't get a penalty for that. And a 5-3. So a 5-4 and a 5-3, a great run there by Waikato, really putting it up there, very close to Edith Cowan on that.
Yeah, so it's really tight up here at the top, even though they got that 5-3. There's about 4 cars with a 5-3, at least fastest lap, and we'll see what happens with the average times.
Yeah, this is a really, really tight competition in that IC event. The more concerning message I got is a message from my boss. So apparently he's watching this, so I've got to be careful what I say. I'm fully appreciative of the opportunity to teach at Edith Cowan University and would greatly appreciate a raise. This looks like a tidy run by the University of Adelaide.
Yeah, this car's definitely been quick so far today, so let's see what they've got.
And a 5-3, a great first lap.
And a 5.25 there for Adelaide. So that could be slightly faster as their fastest average so far. So that puts them around about 5th place overall, actually 4th place overall. So really good effort there from Adelaide.
Great run. And the IC is still up for grabs. Sydney's still lined up here, wants another run. It looks like Monash is on the back there for another run. So we may still see this lead change. Very, very little time to go now. We're in the final runs. So we have Auckland in this line. We have Monash in this line. They'll be trying to see if they can take the win on there. Driver warming up the tyres, getting as much heat in as possible. Doesn't quite look like the same aggressiveness as before, but very tight to the cones. A 5-3. And a 5.2. Unfortunately, I don't think that'll be enough to improve their time. So not quite quicker than their previous one, but a great run by that driver.
Yeah, so I think we're doing one run each for all the cars lined up now, just to try and get them as many of them out there as we can at the end. So that'll be their only run for Auckland. They're going to get pushed back, and University of Sydney are going to get out for another crack now.
And so this is a very, very familiar sight in Formula SAE Australia. We're going to see Monash run last. They always seem to manage to get the very last run on skid pad. And so we're not going to know how this lands until they've done that run.
Yes, they've currently been pushed down to third place overall, so they're definitely going to be wanting to jump up with this last run, and we'll see what they can do. This looks like a much better run here from Sydney.
Oh, they nearly turned there. A 5.6.
A little bit rough on the second lap, but we'll see what the time comes out at. And a 5.9 there from Sydney, so maybe not as quick as they went earlier on.
Okay, so curtain lined up. We're going to have the final three runners. They're only going to get one shot each. It's very difficult to get enough heat into the tyres. Normally the quick runs are when the driver comes around and does a second run. But all of these teams have got the potential to improve their times. Curtin coming out. They've done an absolutely fantastic job after missing acceleration to be out here and to be running. They've put in a fair few runs here. I'm pretty sure they would have told their driver just to send it.
Yeah, possibly the Daniel Ricciardo strategy happening for a few drivers here at the end. Pretty smooth run so far, though, so drivers definitely got the car under control. And a 5.5 there from Curtin, so that could be their best first lap so far. And a 5.3, so that's an improvement there from Curtin University. Well done.
Very good job, Curtin. Well done.
So that's jumped them up ahead of the University of Western Australia in the WA Cup.
Absolutely great job by Curtin there. And that car's just got faster and faster on each of those runs. They're really starting to dial this in. If they can carry that improvement through till tomorrow, they'll be very happy.
Yeah, it was a shaky start today, but there's certainly been some impressive electric cars showing decent reliability now and actually getting out there and putting a lot of consistent and repeatable times on the board. So it's looking and shaping up like a really competitive competition tomorrow. And honestly, it's still wide open. I can't really pick who's going to be the favourite so far.
Absolutely. And here's Tasmania. They really drive this car hard. I think this car's going to do very well tomorrow.
Yeah, this is looking a bit quicker than their previous run. With a 5.3 there from UTAS, they're definitely faster.
Lost it a little bit on that entry. And it appears to be making a bit of a sound. It's
yeah, spinning up the inside wheel a bit, maybe losing a bit of power there. And a 5.6, but I think that's still their fastest average time so far. So well done, University of Tasmania.
Yeah, that was a very quick first lap from Tasmania. Very impressive. I think that car has really got it for tomorrow.
Yes, I think they lifted up the inside wheel there on their second lap and they started to lose all their power and actually lost a bit of speed. So if they can get that sorted out, that won't be as much of a problem in the autocross event tomorrow because you don't spend such a long time turning one direction. So that car could be actually quite competitive come tomorrow.
And here it comes. Here's the sight that we normally expect at these competitions. Monash coming out to see at the very last run whether they can put the time on. It's not the M20, it's not the M21, it's the M22. 3 years of development. Let's see whether they can take off Auckland here.
So Auckland's time to beat is an average of around a 5.2. So let's see what Monash can do. .54 on that first lap. Going to have to be a lightning second lap to get this. And a 5.2, so I don't think they've got it there, unfortunately, for Monash, which would mean that University of Auckland, we think, are the winners of skid pad for this year.
And it looks like a very interesting competition in that we have what looks like an electric team as number one and an internal combustion engine team at number two. So really in and amongst it. We
Yeah.
did see the electric teams dominate in that acceleration event overall, but the IC teams have really fought back in this event, and it's good to see.
Yeah, very well done from Edith Carnuni there, mate. Congratulations.
I'm a very happy lad.
Yeah, we've got some happy faces up here in the comm box, but no, that's a very good effort from University of Auckland to take the win there. But Edith Cowan with the combustion car and the unique suspension system on that car, showing that there's not one way forward when it comes to getting a suspension to work in these events. So a very impressive effort from all of the teams there, and Monash University, I think, slotting there in third place.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining us at this skid pad. That's been a really interesting run, and a lot of changes going on. Lead changing hands a number of times. Some very interesting concepts running. Some really tight contests, and great to see the University of Auckland, who look like they have a stranglehold on this competition so far. Let's see how it goes into tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's probably a 5 or 6 cars tomorrow that have shown their hand today. Maybe haven't got the time they were looking for in the skid pad event, but all looking like they're having very promising dynamic performances coming into tomorrow. So really, the competition is still wide open, especially for the minor placing. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. We still have one more event to go this afternoon. We have the autonomous demonstration, which I have been informed has been pushed back to 6 p.m. So 6 to 7 p.m. back here at the skid pad. We'll hopefully be seeing at least 2 autonomous vehicles out here. It looks like Monash and QUT in this final stages of autonomous scrutineering at the moment, and hopefully we'll see both of those vehicles out here later on. So please don't go away. If you go back to your pits, get some work done, and then if you're feeling ready, come back at 6 o'clock to see that go down.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and we're signing
Been a pleasure.
off.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, boys. Well done.